A king once held a gun to another king's head inside these walls. This happened at Windsor Castle, the oldest occupied castle on Earth. You think you know royal residences. Buckingham Palace gets the postcards. Versailles gets the Instagram posts. But Windsor has survived nearly 1,000 years of betrayals, fires, executions, and scandals that would make a Netflix series look tame. However, most people walk past its most shocking secrets without ever knowing they exist. Because Windsor Castle isn't just a tourist attraction, it's a fortress that changed the course of Western civilization, and the stories buried in its stones are wilder than any crown jewel could ever suggest. Picture this. You're standing 23 miles west of London in Berkshire, England. The year is 1070. William the Conqueror has just ripped England from Saxon hands, and he's paranoid. Rightfully so. He needs a ring of steel around London, a defensive network so formidable that no rebellion could ever touch his new capital. Therefore, he chooses a chalk cliff, high ground overlooking the River Thames. Strategic, brutal, perfect. This is where Windsor Castle begins, not as a palace, but as a weapon. William builds a Motte and Bailey fortification, the medieval equivalent of dropping a military base on your enemy's doorstep. A wooden tower atop an artificial hill surrounded by a timber fence. Quick to build, hard to assault, designed to intimidate. But here's what makes Windsor different from every other Norman castle. It never stopped evolving. While other fortresses crumbled into romantic ruins, Windsor kept adapting, kept surviving, kept dominating. It's like comparing a Nokia brick phone to an iPhone, except the iPhone has been continuously upgraded for 955 years. You want numbers? Windsor Castle covers 13 acres. That's roughly 10 football fields of fortified medieval architecture. It's the largest inhabited castle in the world. Not the biggest, the inhabited biggest. Because here's the twist. The British royal family still uses it as a primary residence. Queen Elizabeth II spent most of her weekends here and died here in 2022. King Charles III holds court here. This isn't a museum pretending to be alive. It's alive. Henry I arrives in the early 1100s, and he makes a decision that defines Windsor forever. He replaces William's wooden fortress with stone. Stone doesn't burn. Stone doesn't rot. Stone says, I'm not going anywhere. He constructs the first stone keep, the round tower you see dominating the skyline today. Although, plot twist, it's not actually round. It's irregular, but from a distance, on that artificial hill, it looks circular enough to earn the name. Henry II takes it further. Between 1165 and 1179, he transforms Windsor into a proper palace-fortress hybrid. He adds defensive walls, residential buildings, and the first royal apartments. He's essentially saying, I'm not just defending London anymore, I'm living here in style. This is where Windsor becomes more than a military installation. It becomes a symbol. Power isn't just about swords and sieges anymore. It's about showing the world you can feast in luxury behind impregnable walls. It's about making your enemies know they'll never take what you have. Edward III arrives in the 14th century, and he's obsessed with King Arthur. Not in a cute way. In a, I'm going to rebuild my grandfather's castle into an Arthurian fantasy and create an entire order of knights based on the Round Table way. In 1348, Edward founds the Order of the Garter at Windsor, still active today, still the most prestigious chivalric order in Britain. The ceremony happens annually in St. George's Chapel, which Edward also starts building inside the castle grounds. This isn't just about knights and honor, it's medieval branding genius. Edward is creating a mythology around Windsor that makes it sacred, legendary, and untouchable. But here's the dark irony. While Edward's building is Camelot, the Black Death is ravaging Europe. Half the workers die. The dream takes decades to complete. Yet, Windsor survives again. Windsor's defensive design is so intimidating that it's barely ever tested. During the First Barons' War in 1216, rebel barons surround the castle. They besiege it for 3 months. 3 entire months. The defenders hold, the walls hold, the rebels give up. Why? Because taking Windsor by force is a nightmare. You're assaulting uphill. The walls are massive. The defenders have supplies. And even if you breach the outer walls, you still have to take the round tower on that artificial mound. It's a fortress within a fortress. Medieval designers understood layered defense better than most modern video games. During the English Civil War in the 1640s, Windsor becomes a parliamentarian stronghold. Oliver Cromwell's forces occupy it, and they use it as a prison. King Charles I, yes, the king who eventually gets his head chopped off, is held here before his execution. You can almost feel the weight of that irony. A king imprisoned in his own fortress. The walls that protected his ancestors become his cage.
Now we arrive at the gun-to-the-head moment I promised you. The year is 1647. The English Civil War is still raging. King Charles I is imprisoned at Hampton Court, but he escapes and flees to the Isle of Wight. Eventually, he's moved to Windsor Castle. Meanwhile, his son, the future Charles II, is in exile. Fast forward to 1670s. Charles II is now king, restored to the throne. He's hosting his cousin, King Louis XIV of France. No, wait, not Louis in person, but French dignitaries. The relationship between England and France is tense. Always is. During a heated argument about politics and religion, Charles II, in a moment of drunken rage, allegedly pulls a pistol on a French ambassador inside Windsor's state apartments. Diplomats panic. Courtiers scramble. The incident is hushed up, but the story leaks. Europe is scandalized. A king threatening another sovereign's representative inside a royal palace? The audacity. But that's Windsor for you. It's witnessed backroom betrayals, political assassinations, royal fury, and diplomatic disasters that never make the official history books.
George IV takes the throne in the 1820s, and he has expensive taste. Really expensive. He looks at Windsor and thinks, this medieval fortress is charming, but I want drama. Therefore, he hires architect Geoffrey Wyatville to Gothicify everything. They raise the round tower by 30 feet, making it even more visually dominant. They add battlements, turrets, and romantic medieval flourishes that didn't exist before. It's historically inaccurate. It's theatrical. It's perfect. This is the Windsor you see today, a Victorian fantasy of what a medieval castle should look like. Authentic history layered with 19th century romanticism. It's like medieval cosplay, but built in stone and inhabited by actual royalty. November 20th, 1992. A restorer's spotlight ignites a curtain in the Queen's private chapel. Within minutes, flames engulf the castle's northeast section. The fire rages for 15 hours. 9 staterooms are destroyed. Over 100 more are damaged. The world watches on live television as Windsor burns. The symbolism is devastating. The Queen calls 1992 her annus horribilis, her horrible year. 3 of her children's marriages are falling apart, and now her beloved castle is on fire. But here's the astonishing part. The restoration takes 5 years and costs £36.5 million, and it's completed ahead of schedule. The destroyed rooms are rebuilt using medieval techniques, green oak, traditional joinery, handcrafted details. Some rooms are even redesigned with modern Gothic flair, creating new ancient spaces that blend seamlessly with the old. Windsor refuses to die again. You walk through Windsor today, and most tourists miss the best parts. Here's what you need to know. St. George's Chapel holds the tombs of 10 monarchs, including Henry VIII and Charles I, the king who was executed. They're buried in the same chapel, the tyrant and his victim, forever. The state apartments contain art by Rembrandt, Rubens, and Van Dyck. Holbein's portraits line the walls. You're walking through one of the finest private art collections on earth. The Queen's ballroom is so opulent it makes Versailles look modest. Queen Mary's doll's house is bizarrely fascinating. Built in the 1920s, it's a 1/12 scale palace with working electricity, plumbing, and a wine cellar stocked with actual vintage wines in tiny bottles. It even has a library with readable miniature books written by famous authors like Arthur Conan Doyle. Why does this exist? Because royal eccentricity has no bounds. The dungeons beneath the castle are rarely mentioned. Medieval prisoners were held here. Their graffiti still marks the walls. You can visit them on certain tours, and the cold stone silence is haunting. This was where power kept its enemies in darkness. If you visit Windsor, you need to see the changing of the guard ceremony. It happens outside the castle gates at 11 a.m. on select days. Check the schedule, because it's weather dependent. The guards march in red tunics and bearskin hats, a tradition going back centuries. The ceremony is military precision meets theatrical pageantry. The band plays. The guards move in perfect synchronization. Tourists pack the streets. It's free, it's iconic, it's quintessentially British. But here's the insider tip. Arrive early, really early. By 10:30 a.m. at the latest, or you'll be stuck at the back of the crowd with a view of someone's smartphone.
Windsor Castle is open almost year-round, but it closes when the royal family is in residence for state occasions. Check the official website before you go. Tickets cost around £28.50 for adults, and they're valid for a year, so if you get rained out, you can return. The castle is massive. Budget at least 3 hours. Wear comfortable shoes. The cobblestones are medieval, which means they're charming and ankle-twisting in equal measure. Don't miss St. George's Chapel. It's included in your ticket, and it's architecturally stunning. Late Gothic perpendicular style, soaring fan vaults, stained glass that glows like jewels. This is where Prince Harry married Meghan Markle in 2018 and where Queen Elizabeth II's funeral service was held. Photography is banned inside the state apartments. They're serious about this. Don't even try. But the exteriors and grounds are fair game, so snap away. Windsor town itself is worth exploring. Charming streets, traditional pubs, riverside walks along the Thames. The Crooked House of Windsor leans at a dramatic angle. It's a 17th century tea house that looks like it's about to collapse, but has stood for over 300 years. Very on brand for Windsor.
Here's what makes Windsor truly extraordinary. It's not frozen in time, it evolves. When Princess Eugenie got married in 2018, the world watched inside St. George's Chapel. When Prince Philip died in 2021, his funeral was held here. When Queen Elizabeth II passed in 2022, Windsor became the center of global mourning. This castle has seen 9.5 centuries of history. It survived wars, sieges, fires, scandals, and revolutions. It's housed 51 monarchs across 40 generations. And it's still standing, still occupied, still relevant. You walk through Windsor, and you're not just touring a museum. You're stepping into a living timeline of British history. Every stone has witnessed something. Every room has held someone who shaped the world.
So here's what you came for. A castle that's older than most nations, tougher than any siege, and more scandalous than any tabloid could imagine. Windsor Castle isn't just the longest occupied palace in Europe. It's a survivor's masterclass in adaptation and endurance. You learned about William the Conqueror's paranoid genius, Edward III's Arthurian obsession, a king holding another king at gunpoint, and a fire that nearly destroyed it all. you discovered that what looks medieval is actually Victorian Gothic, that 10 monarchs sleep beneath St. George's Chapel, and that a dollhouse in the castle is more luxurious than most people's actual homes. Windsor Castle proves that history isn't dead. It's alive, it's breathing, and it's waiting for you to walk through its gates and feel the weight of 1,000 years pressing down on those ancient stones. Because some fortresses fall, some palaces fade, but Windsor conquers time itself.